Joe, there's actually a lot of things going on with the Jets, and this is not a show about tanking and everything else. This is going to be a variety of topics. And the first one is Woody Johnson, as expected, is going to more likely will be the ambassador in the UK, which means the team will be now run by day-to-day operations by Chris Johnson, which is no surprise either. And the reactions are everybody like, oh, what's going to change? What's going to change? My honest opinion is nothing. I think that this team, if they were smart, which sometimes they're smart, not always, but sometimes, I think they assume this was going to happen. They have a transition plan in place. Woody will still have his hands all over this team, especially when it comes to finances. And I think there's not a lot going to change, man.
Yeah, sadly, I believe the exact same thing. I don't think anything changes either. I think they've pretty much already had this plan kind of in place. I mean, this didn't just pop up yesterday. Woody has, been in talks to get this position for quite some time now. They have a transition plan in place. I'm pretty sure if anything were to happen or his brother will defer to Woody, they'll call Woody and get his input for it. So, Woody Johnson is not gone from this franchise. I know a lot of fans that really puts them down in the dumps, but he's still here. So I just, Chris is just in the seat right now. We're just moving forward with that.
Yeah, like I said, there's nothing substantially going to change with this. I mean, push comes to shove and a big financial decision has to happen. He sends an email, call, text, whatever, and they talk about it. Nothing shocking there. And now comes a fun topic, Joe. And I'm going to see, you are a self-proclaimed huge Chad Pennington fan, correct?
Yes, I am.
That was your guy, right?
That's my guy.
So when the Jets screwed over Chad Pennington and brought in Brett Favre and kind of just cut Chad, and Chad became a Dolphin, did you root for Chad as a Dolphin?
You know what? I didn't. I couldn't root for him because he was a Dolphin. I couldn't do that. Everyone knows. I mean, I hate everybody else in the AFC East, but especially the Dolphins. No, I couldn't root for him, but I did wish him the best because the way that he got released and how he got let go, it was atrocious. And we have a long history of doing that to a lot of, players that have helped us in the past as well. But I couldn't root for him, but I did wish him the best.
So when the Jets choked and the Dolphins won the AFC East, led by Chad Pennington, and went to the playoffs, when Chad was facing the Ravens, were you rooting for Chad against the Ravens?
Absolutely not. Like I said, I couldn't do it. But I tell you what, when we went in there and they beat us, I knew it was coming. I knew he was going to get the job done somehow. I knew that they were going to beat us. And, it was kind of, hey, this is what we deserve. Look at how we treated him. Look at how we booted him out the door. But, no, I was not backing him in any way going against any other team with that uniform on.
Even when the Jets were eliminated in the playoffs, Chad against the Ravens, you weren't kind of rooting for him to get that win?
Absolutely not. You play for that team, I will not cheer for you, ever.
Okay. Now, fast forward to this year, and the New York Jets screwed over another prominent player with the team. They screwed over David Harris. And David Harris decided to take his talent to Boston. Now, I don't blame him whatsoever. 2-year deal, very, very reasonable. He's got a spot in that defense. I think he's going to contribute in that defense. So we'll start with that is, Joe, I am not surprised at all that David Harris went there. The funny thing is, for everybody saying they're so glad David Harris left, the Jets tried to keep him at a lesser deal. So the Jets clearly don't know what they're doing. They're trying to pinch pennies, which we all know about this already, but they were trying to keep him. But anyway, he went to New England. What are your thoughts on that?
It was kind of a no-brainer to me. I look at what he brings to that linebacking core for them. They do a lot of rotations within their linebacking core. They run a lot of different defenses. I know Belichick has been fond of him for quite some time. I remember him talking about him in press conferences, talking about, how great of a player he is and how, a lot of things that he can do, his ability as a player really changes and complicates, their offensive system sometimes when they're trying to run plays against us. So him going there and becoming part of that rotation, a beastly rotation now with him added, it doesn't surprise me at all. I will not cheer for him. That's what I will not do. But I do wish him the absolute best. I think the way that he was let go, yet again, treating another, good veteran player like trash and just, giving him the raw deal as he goes out the door. I thought it was atrocious. But, I can't cheer for him. Not with that team, not that franchise. No, sir.
So once the New York Jets are eliminated from playoff contention, which will probably be like Week 10 this year, and David Harris is or maybe Week 8 for all I know. Would you be happy for the player if he has success in New England and they win a Super Bowl? Would you be happy for David Harris, or once he leaves, you're done with him?
Yeah, no, I won't be. Not if you go to the Patriots. Not if you go to any other team in the AFC East. I will not be happy for you. There's a very good chance that he will win a Super Bowl there because they are stacked this year. I mean, they have walked the walk and talked the talk. They went out and spent money. They made trades. They have a very good team up there, absolutely. But no, I'm not going to be happy to watch you win a Super Bowl with those disgusting, with that awful franchise. Not at all. I won't cheer for it. Won't be happy. But again, I wish him the absolute best.
So once the Patriots take the playoffs and the Jets are on the golf course watching them, a part of you won't say, you know what, I want to see David Harris get a ring?
Absolutely not. No, not if you're playing for the Patriots. No, I do not want to see you get a ring. Not at all. It's the same thing that we went through with Revis. I remember a lot of, we talked about it. I remember,
Well, it's a little bit different with Revis, though, because Revis chased the money.
Yeah, he chased the money, but there was a lot of fans that were just saying, you know what, let's just cheer him on because he's there. He's one of ours. Hopefully he comes back. I didn't feel that way at all. I didn't feel that way at all with him. I was hoping, that they wouldn't get anything with him. I'm going to wish the exact same thing. Like I said, I wish David Harris the absolute best. Stand-up guy, great player. I mean, a great man, okay? I loved him here. He's one of my favorite Jets. But the second you cross that line and you wear that other team's uniform, those colors, you're dead to me. You're absolutely dead to me. I wish you the best, but I don't want you to win a thing.
See, with Revis, he chased money. He didn't care. He wasn't about the team. He was about himself, the almighty dollar. So for me, when he left, I really didn't care. I'm like, you know what? You greedy bastard, you can go. David Harris was screwed over. Chad Pennington was screwed over. When Chad Pennington, when they knocked us out of the playoffs or the AFC, I wasn't surprised either because Favre fell apart and everything else. But when they went to the playoffs, the Dolphins, I'm like, you know what? If Chad wins, that's kind of cool. The guy deserves it. At some point, like from an individual perspective, I'm like, David Harris, after all he's done, and people could talk about his contract and all the nonsense, I don't care. As a player, he gave his heart and soul to the New York Jets. He went to the Patriots. Absolutely. I wish he didn't go there. But once the Jets are eliminated, and if he has success there, I won't be mad at him. Like, you know what? He gets the ring. Good for him, dude. Like, I just a guy that I can't hate because it wasn't really about the money. It was like the Jets screwed him. But then if you want to stick to your guns with that, no, go ahead.
Yeah, no, let me be clear. I don't hate him. Let's be clear about that. I do not hate him. I just don't care. I'm not going to cheer for you because cheering for you means I'm cheering for that uniform, and I will not cheer for another team, another football team in the NFL outside the Jets. I will not do it, especially if you're a rival in the AFC East. I won't do it, but I do not hate him at all. Like I said, I wish him the absolute best, except for when we play him. But I cannot deal with watching a great if Nick Mangold goes there, or if anybody else just happens to pop up and leave. If Eric Decker would have gone there, I would have said the exact same thing. I can't stand to watch that.
Okay, so now you mentioned him. Now Eric Decker's a Tennessee Titan, not in our division. Mm-hmm. Once the Jets get eliminated from the playoffs, week 8, week 9, week 10, maybe week 6, who knows? Would you start feeling good for Eric Decker if the Titans make a run? Would you be like, hey man, you know what? Good for him.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. But again, if you don't have a Jets uniform on, I'm not very interested in your success. Not at all. But as a football fan, I can say, hey, because he's not in the AFC East, hey, have a good time. I wish him the absolute best, but I won't be cheering for him like I would cheer for one of our wide receivers. Not at all.
Okay. Now, say Nick Mangold, Ring of Honor guy, arguably one of the best centers in the history of the organization, him and Kevin Mawae. Say Nick Mangold ends up with the Giants, and the Giants make a run. Now they're not the AFC; it's an NFC team, but they're the crosstown rivals.
Exactly.
You kind of pull from Nick Mangold a little bit. Would that be a guy that can kind of like, hey, you know what? You go to Giants, I can go with that.
No, we'll not do it. We'll not do it. That's the crosstown rival. Not doing it. I bleed green. Like I said, I wish him the absolute best. I thought the way he was let go, I was hoping we could work out a deal with him. I'm still hoping, you know, maybe if he's willing to take a minimum and come back or something like that, if they're even interested in that. You know, but if he ends up going to the Giants, not at all. Like I said, you're dead to me. I thank you for all the years that you played here. I thank you for all the great memories. You're a great Jet. You know, like you said, he'll probably end up in the Ring of Honor without a shadow of a doubt. One of the best centers, one of the best centers ever to play in the NFL. But I will not be cheering for you if you go over to the Giants, and I will not, you know, clap for you if you guys make a run or nothing like that. Nope, not at all.
Okay, and this is interesting because, you know, these are players that, not really Decker, but Mangold and David Harris are guys that are just like, man, like these are Jets. And to see them, you know, it's just like to see David Harris, the Patriot, to be honest with you, that burns me a lot more than Revis. It does. Because Revis he was up with the money, dude. It was just like, that was his thing. And he didn't care about the team. He didn't care about the fans. He didn't care about nothing but the almighty dollar. David Harris was a lifelong vet. He was one of ours. You know what I mean? That was our guy. And now it's like he's there, and that hurts more to see him go there. But then a part of me is like, you know what? You hate rooting for the Patriots, but if David Harris won a Super Bowl there, for him personally, that'd be pretty cool because I think he deserves it. Almost like I think like Nick Mangold, hopefully he goes to winning organization. He deserves it. But it's just like with the Patriots, it's like, man, like it's like you want to root for the guy, but it's like, dude, you're a Patriot. You know? So you try to think, okay, where could he go? Is there any team that these guys could go to that you're like, you know what? All right, it's cool. Then it's like, you know what? It can't be an AFC team for me because it's just like there's no way I could cheer for, you know, but Jets are eliminated. It doesn't really matter. So you go NFC, can't be the Giants because we hate them. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't think there's really a scenario where you can find a team that's like, you know, if you go there, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. And I think that's what kind of you know, motivated him to go there as well. Like, you know, there's been a lot of talk about, you know, one of the main reasons that he went there was, hey, I want to win. I get it. I totally understand it. You know, if I was in his shoes, if I was David Harris, I would absolutely take that opportunity, you know, to go into that franchise. I mean, all the history that they have, the coach, you know, that they have might actually be one of the best coaches that ever, you know, coach in the NFL. He might be the best coach to ever coach in the NFL. You know, all the just their whole program, just their roster, the way it's set up this year, I get it. But, man, it's painful. It's painful to watch a guy that you know, if he was here, would be a starter for us, would probably be our best linebacker, would still be productive here, and you got to go watch him play for that team and make them better. You know, and not just that, but just watching how we handled that situation, how we just bumbled it and just absolutely just stumbled through the whole thing, and then he gets away and gets to go, you know, chase his dreams and try to win a ring with this team that has won multiple times, that has destroyed us multiple times throughout the year, has, you know, gone on to beat us and gone on, you know, and won Super Bowls right in our face year after year after year. It sucks.
No, it definitely does suck, man. I agree. And it's just like, you know, it's so tough. And this one bothers me because, like, I knew he was going to go there.
Yep.
And the funny thing is, like, I'm not mad at him for doing it. Like, you see fans, he's screwing the Jets. He's doing this. No.
Exactly.
And once the team decides to cut you, you're a free agent. And if you're an older player, you go for after you've made a good amount of money, you go for the best chance to win. That's the Patriots.
Yeah.
Like, even Decker. Decker had a good reason to go to Tennessee. His family's there. It's great for his wife. And guess what? They're a young team on the rise. He has a chance to make a difference.
Exactly.
Mangold's going to be interesting. You know, like that. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes because, you know, he may go as a backup. He may have to not play center. It's interesting, but, you know, it's just like, man, like a part of you wants to root for them because you want to see them as an individual have success. But then it's like, man, I can't root for the Patriots. I can't root for the Dolphins. I can't root for the Titans. I just don't want to. Like, I just don't like these teams. Like, it's just, you know, it's just It makes it interesting from like a Jet fan perspective than a football fan. You know what I mean? Like a football fan, you want to see David Harris get a ring because he earned it. But from a Jet fan, you're like, nah, it's the Patriots.
Yeah, and like I said, even the same thing with Decker. You watch Decker go to a team, and like you just said it right there. You know, he's going to a team that's on the rise. Outside of all the other, you know, comfort stuff with him, like you said, his family's there, all those things will work out. But when you're talking about the on the field stuff with that football team, they got a young quarterback that's maturing, that's growing, you know, that they honestly believe, hey, this is the guy that's going to be our franchise quarterback. He's going to be the guy to lead us. We just got to get him some targets out here. and you bring in Decker, who's a guy that's still productive, can still play the position with consistency, and you're giving this young QB a target, and you're going out there and you're going with a team on the rise that's trying to get somewhere. And I just look at this team that I'm sitting with here, in New York, and I'm saying, don't we have a young quarterback that we're hoping to figure out is our franchise player or not? Shouldn't we be trying to give him as many targets as we could? So why would you let this guy walk away from this franchise when he can still produce here and let him go elsewhere and be another young quarterback's target? It just blows my mind, man.
No, there's questionable decisions, man. And like I said, I'm not going to turn this into a McCagnon bashing session because I'm mad at that. And most of the arguments are legitimate. But the thing is, too, it's just when players change teams, like I said, right now it's like David Harris, it's whatever. But it's, there was a time, dude, I used to hate Jason Taylor from the Dolphins. I hated him. I could not stand him. And then lo and behold, he became a Jet. And guess what? I had to like him. And that's just called being a fan. So it's the nature of the beast, and it's just funny the way it all works out. But it just stinks, man. It just stinks. So we'll touch on that. Like you said, some of the decisions that were made with Decker and Harris, I don't agree with, but it's water under the bridge at this point. Not really much you can do about it. But Joe, one question I have for you is, go ahead.
Yeah, one more thing before we leave that topic. It's just another thing that bothers me a lot about Harris going with the Patriots is the fact of they've done this before where we've let players go and they've found a way to use them and just abuse the rest of the league. And you remember Danny Woodhead? They did the exact same thing with him. I remember when we were talking about this guy and, we don't know if he's the back here. We got a couple backs already. He's just kind of on the back burner. And we let the guy go, and we all knew that he was talented. That was the year where we were like, this guy should be on the roster. Even if he's the last back here, he was showing flashes and sparks. We let him go. He gets there, and they just turn him into this, matchup nightmare. He's just out there running routes, catching footballs. Coming out the whole – it was just absolutely nuts. And it was just like – here again is this franchise showing us this is why we're constantly better than you because we're smarter than you. We'll take players that you just want to throw away. We'll bring them on in here and have them do what they do best within our scheme and system and just destroy you with them. It just sucks.
No, it does. I agree. They've taken a lot of players over the years. Some worked out, some didn't. Yep. I remember Victor Green was there, picked off a pass. I wanted to vomit on myself. So there's a lot of guys that have gone there over the years, and it's ridiculous. So we'll transition to some other things. And so do you think, if you look at this team right now, a lot of people on paper saying it's one of the worst teams in the NFL, it's a rebuild, it's all these things, and in a lot of ways you can't argue with them. Is there a position on this team that Jets fans, that all of us tend to overvalue, that we think is making it better than it actually is?
I think it's better than it actually is. I think a lot of
right now we're drinking a lot of green Kool-Aid right now, man. I think we're like, this position is pretty strong. Is there one that we're overvaluing?
I would say, and I don't think this is necessarily going to shock people, but I would say the defensive line, because the numbers have never matched up to the hype. Yes, we know that Leonard Williams, great player, but outside of that, I think Muhammad Wilkerson and Sheldon Richardson are question marks, especially coming into this year. Not talent. We all know they're talented. We know they're both talented. There's no doubt in anyone's mind that they have the ability. But when is that going to be put together, and when is that going to be shown on game day? When are they going to go out there and dominate teams the way that we believe on paper that they should? When you look at this defensive line, when you say these names, when you say Wilkerson, when you say Richardson, when you say Leonard Williams, it's like, man, this should be unblockable. There should be no offensive line outside of maybe the Cowboys that should even stand a chance against this defensive line. Nobody. It should be nightmares, terrors. Quarterbacks should be going to sleep and just waking up, dreaming about, Sheldon Richardson just destroying them. But then we watch this on game day, and often it's not that. We watched us get gashed all last year. There were games where we had 300-yard passers against us. That Seahawks game, Russell Wilson was on a bum leg. He didn't get touched the entire game. There were games where we didn't have any sacks at all, no pressure, no nothing. So I think that's, I think that's a little bit kind of, or at least the aura around our defensive line is a little bit overrated right now. I think that our secondary may be a little bit overrated. I think people just believe that it's going to be better. I think there's a lot of moving parts in that secondary, especially at cornerback, that we're going to figure out this year. A lot of young players, a lot of guys going to get burnt and beat. But as far as defensively, that's kind of what I see right now.
It's interesting, dude, and I knew you were going to say defensive line, but I think they may have a bounce-back year. The secondary, I think the excitement around Jamal Adams and the pick of May has everybody so excited, kind of ignoring the learning curve, the speed bumps, everything else we're going to have in the secondary, the unknown of Claiborne, can he stay healthy? There's a lot of unknowns there. You can make a case for the linebackers as well, because that's the ultimate if. If Demario Davis can do this, if Darren Lee can do that, if Lorenzo Molden can do this, if Jordan Jacobs can do that, when you see linebackers, you're saying if. The depth is a concern because, Stanford is, okay, Bruce Carter's okay. If Demario goes down or Darren Lee goes down, we're screwed. Good job getting rid of David Harris there, bozos. I don't think we're overvaluing that. Here's my pick. Wide receivers. I think right now Jets fans as a group are overvaluing our wide receivers because we have potential and we have a hell of a lot of unknown. Quincy Enunwa is a good player. I will give him that. But is he a number one? I'm not really so sure. Then Robbie Anderson. Is he a legit number two? When now you don't have Decker no more, you don't have Brandon Marshall no more. You have guys that are just looking for you. And then after that, Joe, we don't know. What is Sharon Peak? Potential?
Yeah.
I mean, our draft picks are both hurt right now. We don't even know what they are. Jalen Marshall suspended. Like we go into the season like, our wide receivers are young. The youth movement has everybody so high on youth movement, which is great. Until you say, okay, what do we have? This isn't like we don't have like 5 number one receivers there. We're hoping a lot of things pan out. In my opinion, the move with Decker is going to bite us in the ass. Hopefully it's not. I think it's much sooner than we wanted to. But I think as a whole, we're overvaluing our wide receivers at this point. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. There's definitely still questions about Quincy being a number one. We've talked about that. We're wondering what Robbie's role within this new offense that Morton is bringing in even really is. But we all think that he has or at least I believe that he has the ability, to possibly be a number two or a really good slot threat. Sharon Peak is kind of a question mark, but we saw the lights kind of come on when he had a quarterback that could get him the football. He made some solid catches, but me and you both agree that after that, it's question marks, and not just that, but there's a lot of wide receivers that are getting hurt, already having surgeries, that are going down. That groin, we talked about it time and time again, that groin injury with Stewart, who knows how that could affect his first year here, and that would be big. If he's not able to perform, at top flight, if he's, not able to be out there as much as we believe that he should, that could hurt us. That's a third-round pick as well. So there are a lot of questions in that wide receiver court past, Sharon Peak, and that's what's going to make this camp coming up interesting because there's going to be a lot of battles. You got guys like K.D. Cannon that's going to be in there, Gabe Marks, he's going to be battling as well. There's so many guys in that wide receiver court that are battling to figure out who, after that third or maybe even fourth wide receiver, depending on how many we carry, if we carry 7, who's going to be in those positions.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of unknowns there, and I think it's just to assume that they're all going to be great and emerge, or just because we drafted them high doesn't mean they're going to play well. We've learned that with Devin Smith and Smith, Stephen Hill, and all these other guys. And the other position I kind of think too is offensive line. Like I read like 4 or 5 articles today, and Brian Bass is doing some really good things with SNY, and then Jeff Risden did a really good article on just the rebuild. It's like, listen, you look at. You have 2 very good guards in Carpenter and Winters, which is phenomenal. Other than that, we have no idea. So 3/5 of your offensive line, you got to hope. You got to hope that Wesley Johnson continues to get better. Kelvin Beachum, dude, is a huge question mark. And I've read articles where they think Ben Ajalana will be the left tackle and Beachum will go to right tackle. So, dude, to me, it's like everybody says, well, the offensive line, it's got a good foundation. Yeah, with 2 guards. That's only 2/5 of your line. Like, to me, it's like I think we overvalue receivers, and I think, you got to hope Wesley Johnson, that's some big shoes he's filling. I mean, he's supported by 2 guards, which helps him. But, dude, to have your left tackle as a relative unknown when you're crossing your fingers is not a good thing, Joe.
Yeah. And, when you said overvalue, at least I haven't heard any fans talk about this position being overvalued, because I've talked about this time and time again, and this is one of my gripes with Mac, not investing earlier in the draft within this offensive line. You just talked about one of the biggest question marks I think we have on the team is Kelvin Beachum. Not Kelvin Beachum the player, Kelvin Beachum's ability to remain healthy. He hasn't been healthy so far at all. We talked about that knee that's been hurting him time and time again ever since he tore it. It's still swelling up. In OTAs, he missed a lot of time. It's still giving him issues. So you have a guy that is coming off a suspect year, and on top of that, he has a swollen knee. We don't know about his flexibility. We don't know if he's going to be able to even get out there and battle with some of these guys that he's going to play. Like you said, I've talked about Carpenter and Brian Winters. If Brian Winters shows up and is the same guard that he was last year, because last year was his big breakout year. He's been, building up until then. He's had some bad years, but that was the year where they gave him the contract, and he's saying, "Hey, I'm here, and this is who I am." If he still plays at that level, he's one of the we probably have one of the best guard candidates in the league. But like you talked about, outside of that, there's question marks. Wesley Johnson, we're wondering, is this the guy that can fill in for Nick Mangold? Is this Nick Mangold's true replacement? If it's not, and we find out the hard way this year, it is going to destroy whoever whatever young quarterback we have back there, hopefully. And then the other question mark is Shell. First full year. If they're already talking about Shell not even being a factor, and Ajalana is going to end up playing left tackle, a guy that we've seen at left tackle, and we know he's not a real left tackle, and then you're going to have Beachum at right tackle. I mean, what does that say? What does that say about the plan to build for the future, to build for your young quarterback? What does that say about your plan to build your offense if, again, in however many years they've been here, this front office has been here, we're still talking about inconsistencies within the offensive line? Just too many questions there.
No, and this is where this is why I'm trying to figure out overvaluing. Like, I definitely think it's receivers, but Mike Maccagnan once again took calculated risk at left tackle. If Kelvin Beachum, who's making a decent chunk of change, I think it was. I'm trying to look up. I forgot. I know it was a pretty good 3 years, $24 million. Yeah. If he ends up being your right tackle, that's a huge problem. That means Maccagnan completely just his evaluation, his wrist blew up in his face. So not only he's got to hope that Beachum, first of all, he's got to get healthy first of all, and then he's got to show some promise at left tackle and not end up at right tackle. Because if Ajalana is your left tackle with a young quarterback and inexperienced wide receivers, you talk about a cluster, a disaster.
And this is something that I've been talking about with Mike Maccagnan since the handling, since D'Brickashaw Ferguson was let go in the handling of that situation. He chose to retire. Okay, fine. Well, what was the backup plan? Well, the backup plan was to go from a guy that had pretty much never really been hurt in his entire career to a guy in Clady who hadn't played a healthy game of football in 3 years. If these are the backup plans that we're having, because we're going from Ryan Clady, a guy that was never healthy, then we played him, and he pretty much missed a lot of time during that year as well because he had some of the same issues. I think he ended up on IR because he had a shoulder issue. Now we're going from a guy that was injured to another guy that has injury issues. So if these are the backup plans, and these plans don't make any sense, these plans don't make any sense at all. The least thing you could do is bring in a guy that's going to be consistently healthy there. That's the least thing you could do. If that doesn't fall into your plan, then I don't know what to – it seems like you're planning to fail. And then, when we compile that with the fact that we're going to have a young QB back there, if you can't give him a fortified front that's going to keep him upright and allow him to make his reads, you're going to destroy him. There's going to be no way to actively evaluate a quarterback here if he's constantly running for his life, on his back, or hurt because he's getting blasted. And we've talked about this time and time again. One of the most important parts of an offense is going to be your left tackle. And so if you can't fortify that with all the chances that we've had to do that, with all the money that we've had, with the high draft picks that we've had, all these things, if you continue to roll the dice everywhere else on this team, but not doing what it takes to make sure this offensive line is intact and ready to protect whoever's going to be back there, then you're making an absolute mistake if you're a general manager here.
No, I agree, and that is going to be, there are certain spots in this team where Maccagnan's quote unquote rebuilding plan could blow up clear up in his face. And that's the offensive line. When you draft 2 receivers, you draft 2 safeties, and everybody's touting you because it's such a great draft. Great job. When your offensive line has a significant question mark, where it's not Aguilana and Beacham's a question mark, and you got to hope Brandon Shell's there, like you said, dude, that is your foundation. And when we tweet out our topics that everybody steals, how many building blocks are on the New York Jets? If you look at that offensive line, left tackle's not one of them. We don't have that person. I don't think
it's not.
We got to hope it is. So you say, okay, Wesley Johnson could be one. Winters and Carpenter, okay. So that's good. You could hopefully you have 3. But the most important one is left tackle. So, it's like, all right, you look at wide receivers, are any building blocks there? You could say Quincy for sure. Hopefully Robbie Anderson. I think Robbie Anderson still has a lot to prove. After that, we're not sure. Tight end, Safarian Jenkins, hopefully if he can keep his act together, maybe, possibly be a good building block. The rookie, we don't know. Quarterback, we have no idea.
No clue.
Dude, it's interesting, man. For a rebuilding plan, when you look at building blocks, it's hard to argue that, this team isn't one of the worst rosters in the NFL when you look at definitive guys that have talent that are quality players.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think even when you talk about you talk about the building blocks on the offensive line, I don't know if you can lump Wesley Johnson into that group. Carpenter and Winters are proven. Wesley Johnson, we're still trying to figure out what he is and what he isn't. And on top of the fact that, let's say that he doesn't work out, that center position helps the young quarterback as much as every other position on the offensive line. We talked to Brian Winters when he came on the show, and he talked about the effect that Nick Mangold had on some of these young QBs, how he helped them make his reads, how he helped identify some of the players or some of the things that were going on defensively for the quarterback so that he could see things a lot clearer. Those are things that go on within that snap count and those calls that are made out there. The center is identifying what's going on out here. So let me tell you, if Wesley Johnson doesn't work out, that could hurt us as well. I think when you look at the other blocks, Anderson could be one. Enuma, I think, has the ability to be one as well. Like you said, ASJ, we'll see what he gets. He's my guy. I'm going for him. I've talked about this guy before the draft as well. I believe he has the ability, but like you said, we'll see how it pans out. We see if he keeps the act up and gets the job done. But outside of that, there's question marks. There's no other blocks there.